Hi, boys and girls. Today I'm going to be talking to you about different fictional genres. So, earlier this week, we learned that there are two main genres of literature: fiction and nonfiction. Today, we're going to learn about all the different fiction genres that are out there. To remind us of what fiction stories are, we should probably remember that they are fake stories. These are stories that did not really happen. They might have a few real characters or places, but they did not really happen because they have settings, characters, or plots that were made up in the author's imagination. Today, all of the genres we're going to talk about are fictional. They are ones that fall under the category of fiction because they have been made up by the author or authors. The first genre we're going to talk about today is traditional literature. These are stories that are passed from one group to another in history. It includes folk tales, legends, fables, fairy tales, tall tales, myths, and different cultures. Many Disney movies, such as Cinderella, Snow White, are based off of different fairy tales. Folk tales take place in all sorts of cultures. This one is an Indian folk tale that teaches you an important lesson about life. And fairy tales can also take place in different cultures. Fantasy is our next fictional genre. It includes elements that are impossible, such as talking animals or magical powers. There are some examples on the bottom of the screen, but I want to point out two of my personal favorites. First of all, Harry Potter. People don't really have magic, so this is a fantasy story. Gregor the Overlander is also fantasy because in this book he meets cockroaches that are big enough for children to ride on and bats that people can fly on. Those are fake creatures. They do not really exist, so this would be a fantasy example. Anytime an animal is talking or it's a not real animal or people can do things that we can't really do in life, that is a fantasy story. Mysteries are really popular. They have a suspenseful story about a puzzling event that needs to be solved. On the screen, you can see there are some really popular mystery series for kids are the A to Z mysteries, Mystery on the Docks. Magic Treehouse is also a mystery series, but it has some elements of fantasy and science fiction also. But we call it a mystery because they're usually trying to solve a puzzle. This is a popular one as well. Chasing Vermeer. If you haven't checked it out, this is a wonderful mystery series to read about. Up next is historical fiction. These are stories that take place in a particular time in the past. Often the setting is real, but the characters are made up from the author's imagination. So you can see in the bottom right corner, Meet Felicity. The American Girl doll series is a very popular historical fiction one. They take place in real times in history, but the characters are made up. They can also have real characters that do fake events. In Weedflower, a 12-year-old girl is surviving in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor. And this is taking place during a real time. She's just a fake character. Up next is science fiction. This is Mrs. Broker's husband's favorite genre. It is a type of fantasy that uses science and technology. So when you have robots, time machines, aliens, those are considered science fiction. Science fiction can also be when something could happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So for example, in Dark Life, they can live in cities under the water because they have better technology than what we currently have. So they can survive underwater because they have that technology in the future. Realistic fiction is our next genre. This is the one that's the most confusing because it feels real to other people. Realistic fiction is one where the story is made up characters but could really happen. Sports stories are usually realistic fiction. The sport could happen, but the characters are fake. This is another one. This girl immigrated from another country. Those are our genres. I can't wait to see what you talk about as we read more.